What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss even more iOS 17.2 features and changes. We're going to talk about what to expect at next week's Apple event, Apple price hikes that led me personally to cancel some of my subscriptions, a crazy AirTags story, and more. And of course, if you want to stay updated with all things Apple, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want all these details plus more in your email inbox, check out the appleden.com link down below. All right, so let's start by talking about even more iOS 17.2 features and changes. But before that, I do just want to announce that I did just launch my latest wallpaper pack, Opulent. So this is my largest wallpaper collection yet by far. It has more than 100 dark themed wallpapers in super high quality to give you a nice, rich, and simple look on your iPhone home screen and lock screen. So that link is down in the description below. I appreciate the support. Anyways, let's get into these additional iOS 17.2 features and changes here in beta 1. So the first thing I want to talk about, and by the way, this wallpaper is from that Opulent wallpaper pack as well, but the first feature has to do with the AirPods Pro, or just AirPods in general, with the announced notifications feature. So if you do have announced notifications on for messages, I noticed that sometimes it will describe the image now. So for instance, when I sent myself a screenshot, it would say that I received a screenshot from, the caller, from the person who's sending you the message, instead of saying a photo. Before it would just say, so-and-so sent you a photo. This time it describes a screenshot as a screenshot. And I've also seen reports of other people saying that sometimes it will describe what that image is. So if it's a picture of a dog, it will say, so-and-so sent you an image or a photo of a dog. So that's pretty cool. And I'll have to keep testing that because I could not get it to describe, photos. I only saw the difference in when I sent a screenshot. I would say screenshot instead of photo. In the messages application, if you haptic press on one of the messages that somebody sent you to go into the tap back menu, you will notice there is a new option there for add sticker. So now if you tap on add sticker, it takes you here and you could easily add a sticker. And speaking of stickers and memojis, we have a new option here when we go to create or edit our memoji under body. We now have waist, bust, and shoulder. So these are all new options where we can customize the look of our memojis. And by the way, speaking of messages, if you go into the iCloud section in your settings and go to show all right here, you'll see that messages is now messages in iCloud. So that option has just been renamed. It does the same thing, but it's just been renamed. In the TV application, if you go to the store tab, you will notice that there are no longer two different options or two different sections for movies and then TV shows. They're all just combined now. They're not in their own sections anymore. And then also down here on the bottom left, the Watch Now has a new glyph icon in the menu bar down there. If we head into the settings and go to notifications and then go all the way down to the bottom and then go to emergency alerts, if we turn on emergency alerts, you will notice that we have a new toggle there for local awareness. So when you turn this on, it says Apple can use your approximate location to improve the timeliness, accuracy, and reliability of emergency alerts. And then if we go back in our settings and go to general and then to AirPlay and handoff, you will notice we also have a new option here under AirPlay receiver. So if you turn that on, you can see that we can now allow AirPlay for everyone or current user. And you'll notice the text down here is quite interesting. And I believe this is the first time we've seen the Vision Pro headset mentioned in verbiage here in iOS. I don't think we've ever seen the actual name of it mentioned, but now it says stream or share content from Apple Vision Pro to your iPhone. And it is also worth mentioning that you can AirPlay from Apple Vision Pro headset to another Apple Vision Pro headset. You don't need to have an iPhone. So in my What's New video for iOS 17.2 Beta 1, I did talk about the new page turn animation in the Books application. So if you go to themes and settings and then go right here, you can see that we have the fast fade option. So that is a new kind of fade effect when you switch pages here in the Books application. It's actually my favorite animation here, but we also have some changes inside of the settings. So if we go to settings and then go down here to Books, and if we go down, you will see that we have a new section here for automatically invert images. So it says in darker themes, adjust black and white images to improve contrast. And then below that, we do also have the page navigation option where we can choose fast fade from settings as well. Now, I did also want to touch a little bit more on the journal application because I didn't really talk about every single thing in the What's New video because I didn't really have a lot of time to play with it. But now, after spending a couple of days with it, I've learned a lot more about it and how the recommendations and the notifications and all of that work. So when you load it up, here's what it looks like for me. And you can see we have a couple of different color coordinated options here. That just means that I selected one of these suggestions, one of the topics to write about. So for instance, what could you do to make someone's day better this week? I saw that as a suggestion, which by the way, if you tap on the plus right here, and then you go to this little magic pencil button right here in the bottom left, this is where you will get some recommendations. So it shows, what you've done. And these are called reflections when it gives you like a prompt and you can write about it. So the reflection for right now is recall a new idea you had recently. What led you to that idea and how can you make time for those things? So you can refresh it. You could just go through different topics by hitting that refresh button up in the top right-hand corner. And I really like these reflections because that way you're not always starting out with just a blank canvas and you have to decide, everything to write. This gives you kind of a starting point and you can kind of just write from then on. And you can also see right here, write about, what you learned from some of the people you spent time with the last few days. These are my actual journal entries. So, I may blur these. I won't blur them out, whatever. You guys can see that. But yeah, you can go up here and you can see which ones you bookmarked. You can filter it by these different things. But I really like the fact that this does integrate with everything. Like it shows the songs I've listened to recently and things like that. So if we tap on this, you can actually choose which songs you want to, include in this. So maybe if like one of these songs made you feel a certain type of way, you can include that in your journal entry. There's just a lot to this. And I'm still going to learn a lot more about this and, as I use it more, but it's really cool. I think it's an awesome feature and you can add photos in here as well. Voice memos, all these little options you see down here, you can add in there. And you can also choose to have those stay in the journal application and not be saved to your camera roll. And I know a lot of people also asked if all these, journal entries stay on device. And yes, these stay on device. They do not get saved to the cloud. They're not going to be able to be seen by other people since they do stay on device. That's something that Apple was pretty adamant about with the journal application. And I talked about this in my What's New video, but I would recommend having a schedule set up for your journal. That way when, you should journal every day or maybe like once a week or something like that. So if you go to journaling schedule right here, I have this off because this is my test device, but I have mine set to be on every Friday night is when I journal. So now, every single Friday night, I'm going to journal like what has happened throughout the week and things like that. So that's just me personally, but you can set a time and a day right there. Or if you want to do it every day, you can do that as well. And you will get a, reminder to journal. So you can see the option for save to photos down there as well. And then I mentioned this as well in the What's New video, but if you go into the privacy and security and then into journaling suggestions, I would recommend toggling these to your liking because you may not want suggestions from, your contacts or your photos. You may not want that to be, have anything to do with your journaling. So you can set those up right there. And I did also want to touch a little bit more on the contact key verification feature, which also came with iOS 17.2 beta 1. So if you're in a message with somebody and you tap on their contact up in the top, you will see that if you go down, we have the option here for turn on contact key verification. And it says verify who you are messaging with by comparing contact verification codes in person or over the phone. So this is where you can kind of set up that key for a contact. But for me personally, if I turn this on, that means I would have to, update all of these devices that's about to show here. All these devices I would have to update to the latest version. So I'm not going to do that, which means I probably can't even test out contact key verification, but you kind of understand what this feature does. It's really not going to be useful for 90% of people. Also in settings, if you go to the privacy and security tab and then go down to the bottom and go to analytics and improvements, and then go down a little bit near the bottom here, we have improve AR location accuracy. So this again has to do with AR, not necessarily the Vision Pro. This more so has to do with maps. And then also the news application now supports live activities for certain publications. Now I did also want to talk about the performance and the battery life here on 17.2 beta 1 after using it for a couple of days. And I will say that the performance feels pretty much exactly the same as 17.1 to me. I did see a minor bump with performance in 17.1 over iOS 17.0 and 0.0.3, but with 17.2 beta 1, it feels about the same, which I see as a good thing. Like I see that as a positive if the first beta is as good as the previous final release. So I think that we could see a performance improvement with 17.2 by the time it releases to the public, which is always a good sign. Now, as far as battery life goes, battery life to me has been a little bit worse. Let me grab my main phone over here and talk about battery life. So if we look at the last 24 hours, you can see that battery life is just simply not great for me. Like it's not as good as iOS 17.1 or the previous iOS 17.0.3, but it's not terrible. I'm not draining too bad. You can see see the camera was using a lot of my battery life over the last 24 hours, but let's take a look at the last 10 days because this is more telling. So you can see my battery usage just kind of gradually increasing there as the new beta came out, and you can see the activity down there as well. So really not too much worse. I mean, looking at these graphs, it doesn't tell you the full story, but I do see it as a little bit worse. I have noticed that battery life drains a little bit more than it did on 17.1 and previous versions. I've also heard a lot of you guys mention this as well. I don't think I've seen anybody say battery life is better than 17.1, but again, it's a first beta. What do you expect? All right, so now let's talk about what to expect next from Apple. So next up is going to be iOS 17.2 beta 2, and I actually would not expect that next week. So next week, just as a reminder, is going to be Apple's October event, Scary Fast. So that takes place on the 30th, next Monday, so just a couple of days from when you're watching this, and I don't think we're going to see a beta on that day. So I think that we're not going to see a beta next week on the week of the 30th at all. I think 17.2 beta 2 is going to come on the week of November 6th. Now keep in mind, if we do see new products on Monday, which we most likely are, 99% chance we're going to see new Macs, but when we see those, right now there's no mention of the new Macs in the software, which means that we're going to have to see a new build of software for those. So maybe it's just going to be a macOS specific update, next week or the following week on the week of the 6th. I don't know, but we could see a revised version of macOS 14.1, or we could see a 14.1.1, and along with that could come an iOS 17.1.1. But we'll have to wait and see. There are a lot of reports of watchOS 10.1 battery drain and things like that. So there is a world where within the next couple of weeks, we see a 0.1.1 update for all of the major software versions, like all, macOS, iOS, and watchOS. But as far as the final release for iOS 17.2, I don't think we're going to see that until at some point down here in December. So most likely in early to mid-December, honestly. It could even be like the week of the 11th at the latest. So I think 17.2 is going to be released in December. And like I said, there is some time in between for a double point update to patch up some of the bugs. All right, so now let's move on to the latest Apple news. And let's start with price hikes. So Apple just increased the prices for Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, and Apple News Plus, along with Apple One bundles. So Apple TV Plus has increased from $6.99 a month to $9.99 a month. Apple Arcade saw its first price increase ever from $5 a month to $7 a month. And then Apple News Plus went from $10 a month to $13 a month. And by the way, if you subscribe to Apple TV Plus on an annual basis like I did, that price increased from $70 per year to $100 per year. And then as far as the Apple One bundles go, if you have these services included in those, they have increased as well. So individual bundles went from $16.95 a month to $19.95 a month. Family plans went from $22.95 a month to $25.95 a month, and Premier plans went from $32.95 a month to $37.95 a month. So be sure to check your settings, go into your settings, go to the iCloud section, and then go to subscriptions, and make sure, this is where you can cancel your subscription if it does not fall within budget. So for me personally, I had to cancel my Apple News Plus and also my Apple Arcade Plus because they were reasonable. I could justify it in the budget, but now with these price hikes, me personally, I had to cancel both of those services. I will keep Apple TV Plus for the time being, but that's also kind of getting up there. So make sure you know how to cancel your subscriptions if you need to. Okay, so now let's talk about Apple's event on Monday, Scary Fast, and what to expect here. So according to Mark Gurman, we're expecting to see the M3 Pro and the M3 Max chips get added to the 14-inch and the 16-inch MacBook Pros, even though we just saw M2 Pro and M2 Max chips just literally earlier this year. So it's crazy how fast they're moving with these Pro and Max chips. Then we're also expecting to see a new iMac with the M3 chip. And then also Apple is expecting to introduce a lot of USB-C accessories for the Macs. They're gonna kind of replace all of the accessories that had the Lightning port before. So this includes the Magic Mouse, the Magic Trackpad, and the Magic Keyboard. So before, Gurman did say to expect a base 13-inch MacBook Pro with the M3 chip, but now it looks like that's going to be delayed until next year. He said that that's gonna be in 2024, along with the other Macs, like the Mac Studio, the MacBook Air, and all of those with the M3 chip. Now, speaking of next year, Gurman also said to expect new AirPods and AirPods Max next year and the following year. So he said that the standard AirPods and the AirPods Max will be refreshed in 2024, while the next-gen AirPods Pro will not be updated until 2025. Now for the AirPods, they will apparently be getting a design change to both the earbuds and the case, while also improving audio quality. So these might be a major upgrade over the current AirPods, but because of this, Gurman says, quote, Apple plans to phase out both the second generation and third generation AirPods later next year. They'll be replaced with two fourth generation AirPods that are priced similarly to the current versions but are more differentiated. The two models will feature a new design that looks like a blend of the third gen AirPods and the Pro models, and they'll both have the short stems, which is the part that hangs out of a user's ear. And they said Apple will differentiate the two options by including noise cancellation on the higher end version, and that model will also get an updated charging case that includes speakers for Find My alerts, matching the current AirPods Pro. But keep in mind, these are not the AirPods Pro. This is just the high-end version of the AirPods 4, so it's going to be confusing next year. Anyways, he says that both new low-end models will offer an improved fit, but it's unlikely that either will include replaceable tips like the AirPods Pro. And speaking of the AirPods Pro, he said that these are going to come in 2025, and they're going to be updated with a new design and a faster chip, along with the previously rumored hearing aid feature. So these could be a hearing aid replacement at some point in 2025. And then for the AirPods Max second generation, they will get a USB-C port for charging along with new colors, but Gurman is not seeing anything else rumored yet in terms of audio quality or any type of redesign. So it looks like the AirPods Max 2 are going to be a kind of minor update, but as long as they fix the issues and get rid of that brawl case, I think it's going to be a good upgrade if you missed out on the first gens. And then of course, as tradition here on the channel, we have to talk about yet another crazy AirTag story, and this time it comes from a man in Atlanta who is going into a smoke shop but forgot his ID. So he went back to his car to get his ID, only to find out that his car was gone. It had been stolen, along with the dog that was left inside the car in a carrier. So once he noticed his car was stolen, he called the police and told them that he had an AirTag in the car and an AirTag on the dog's collar, so he was able to track down the stolen car and stolen dog. Once the AirTag stopped at an apartment complex, the man and his mother decided to take matters into their own hands, which is never a good idea. You don't really want to mess with somebody stealing your property because it could be armed. But anyway, the police apparently told them it was okay to take matters into their own hands, which I've never heard of before because they usually advise you not to do that. Once they got to that apartment complex, they immediately spotted the stolen vehicle, but the dog was missing and it looked like it had gone inside the apartment and it was just missing. They couldn't find it. And to this day, the dog has still not been found and the thieves have not been caught. So I know, a sad ending to this story. And, it's kind of just a reminder, though, to at least put an AirTag on your belongings. Even though this didn't end well, at least they know where it went missing at. It wasn't just like random, like they lost their dog, putting posters up everywhere. It's never been seen, since they lost it. At least they know where it is. And I guess at least this guy did get his car back. But of course, you can't really replace a dog. You can buy another car that doesn't have a soul, but a dog has a soul. And, that just sucks. But put AirTags on your favorite belongings, including your animals if you need to. So anyways, guys, there you have it. That is the latest in the world of Apple. I hope to see you guys in the live stream on Monday. And we're going to be kind of reacting to the whole Scary Fast event and seeing what gets announced. It could be a quick one, could be a long one. We don't really know what to expect. So that's why the reaction is going to be pretty fun, especially with you guys in there chatting it up. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Also, I hope you enjoyed the opulent wallpaper packs. Again, that is linked down in the description below. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching and I'll see you soon.